Sputnik 2 and Laika, the first pulse of life in space and a silent sacrifice. While the entire world was stunned by the successful launch of Sputnik 1 in October 1957, another frenzy had begun within the Soviet Union. In just 29 days, the Soviet Union was preparing to shock the world again. This time, not just a metal sphere, this time a living creature, a little dog. Her name was Laika. November 7th was approaching, the 40th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. Khrushchev instructed his chief designer, Sergei Korolev, to come up with another surprise for the anniversary of the revolution that would astound the world. Korolev and his team had only 4 weeks to spare. In this incredibly short time, they made a decision that would change the history of space exploration forever. They would send the first living creature into space. Thus began the story of Sputnik 2 and its sole passenger, Laika. Time was so short that scientists had no initial blueprints or the opportunity to conduct rigorous testing for Sputnik 2. Scientists were literally working on their own assumptions. Sputnik 1 was a small sphere weighing only 83.6 kilograms, but Sputnik 2, launched by the Soviet Union on a modified R-7 intercontinental ballistic missile, was a 4-meter-high conical capsule with a base diameter of 2 meters, 6.6 feet, and a weight of about 500 kilograms, 1,100 pounds. Although it was not designed to separate from the rocket core carrying it into orbit, giving it a total mass in orbit of 7.79 tons, 17,200 pounds. It was about 6 times heavier than its predecessor. Its design incorporated several new technologies. A small, controlled chamber was built inside the capsule, which contained an oxygen generator and a carbon dioxide absorber. A cooling fan was automatically activated when the temperature rose above 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit. A special nutritious jelly-like food was kept for the passenger, which provided the water and energy needed to survive in space. A special bag was attached to collect waste. A Geiger counter was installed to measure solar radiation and cosmic rays in space, and telemetry sensors were installed to send the passenger's heart rate, blood pressure, and respiratory rate back to Earth. For this historic mission, scientists needed an animal that could survive in extremely hostile environments. They chose stray dogs from the streets of Moscow because these dogs are used to surviving in extreme cold and hunger. A small, calm, mixed-breed female was finally selected from among several dogs. Scientists named her Kudryavka, short curly hair, but she later became known to the world as Laika, Russian for the one who barks. Laika underwent rigorous training to prepare for space travel. She was gradually placed in smaller and smaller cages to acclimate herself to the small capsule of Sputnik 2. She was also placed in centrifuges and simulators to expose her to the high speeds and noises of the spacecraft. The Sputnik 2 mission was designed in such a way that there was no way back. At that time, the technology to safely return a spacecraft to Earth was unknown. Scientists knew that Laika would never return. A few days before the launch, a scientist took Laika to his home to play with his children for a while, because he knew that this calm dog did not have much time left to live. November 3, 1957. The Sputnik 2 rocket launched into space. During the launch, Laika's heart rate tripled due to the stress and fear. However, after reaching orbit, Laika gradually began to calm in the weightless environment of space, and her heart rate returned to normal. Everyone was excited. This was the first time a living creature was roaming in space. The data coming to Earth through telemetry proved that living creatures can survive in weightless environment of space. But then the tragic incident happened. Due to the hasty construction of Sputnik 2, its heat shield did not work properly. Since the main part of the rocket did not separate from the capsule, the temperature inside began to rise sharply and exceeded 40 degrees Celsius. Decades later, in 2002, Russian scientists revealed the truth. Soviet propaganda at the time claimed that Laika survived a week in space and was then painlessly euthanized, but the truth was much tragicer. Laika died of hyperthermia in the fourth orbit just 5 to 7 hours after launch due to excessive heat and stress. The goal of this experiment, which monitored Laika's vital signs, was to prove that a living organism could survive and continue to function even after being launched into orbit, even in conditions of weak gravity and increased radiation, providing scientists with some initial information about the biological effects of spacecraft. Laika never returned to Earth. On April 14, 1958, after 162 days in space and 2,570 orbits of the Earth, Sputnik 2 re-entered the atmosphere and burned up like a fiery meteor. Laika's coffin disappeared into space with it. Laika's mission sparked a huge debate about animal rights around the world, but her silent sacrifice was not in vain. Sputnik 2 and Laika proved to humanity that it was possible to sustain life in space. Just 4 years later, in 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first man to conquer space, following the path that Laika had paved at the cost of her life. Sputnik 1 may be known in history as the first artificial satellite, but Sputnik 2 and Laika taught us the story of immense value and sacrifice behind the conquest of space.